All right, so I think that last person really hit it on the head. There was this idea that the U.S. had dominance when it came to AI. We had a lead and a bit of a moat, and some of our biggest companies in the public and private space, I'm thinking NVIDIA and OpenAI, they had a significant lead over our Chinese rivals. Has that significantly changed in your mind beyond this knee-jerk reaction to DeepSeek? Has that changed the investment thesis when you're looking at portfolio management?
Well, it doesn't change in terms of the U.S. mega caps being fantastic companies with a lot of business to do and a lot of demand in front of them. I think the wake-up call and the thing that changes a bit is it shifts investor focus away from those that are involved in the build-out on the AI side towards those that are the users. And so anytime you get this intense competition, the likely outcome is costs come down. And when costs come down, you get broader use of AI and broader opportunity to deploy that AI in a way that improves productivity and margins. And so we're really excited about that part of the story. We view that as sort of the next leg here, this transition into folks using AI more broadly to bring down costs.
All right, so you're saying it kind of switches over to the companies that are on the user side of things, but I do want to talk to you about valuation. A lot of these companies have seen big run-ups. They've seen big expansions when it comes to their multiples. Do you have some concerns about the valuation in this market, especially after moves like yesterday, where we're really seeing some selling on the news and a lot of questions about what are these companies, what's the appropriate valuation considering, and again, if this is true, that another company or another country can create very similar AI models for about $6 million in a very short period of time, about 2 months?
I think that's going to be the tug of war this year. There's no question that the outlook and demand for the things that these companies are producing, the U.S. mega cap companies, the demand is going to continue to increase. But we're starting to get into this question of, are we priced for perfection? And I think you hit the nail on the head. Valuation is really the critical part of that story. And so we've really focused on the earnings side there and said that, the valuations are quite elevated. That's one of the reasons why any blip of negative news is going to trigger these swift downdrafts. And you set the stage for a lot of volatility this year. I think if you look through that volatility and you try to play the earnings side of it, the stocks look pretty decent, but you really have to be concerned about short-term volatility. Any news could really trigger a change, as we saw yesterday.
All right. I want to talk to you about just as far as this trade when it comes to retail investors. We actually have Vanda Research here on the show, and they talked about retail investors actually beating the market last year with about a 41% gain. We have some new research from them. Again, this is according to Vanda Research. Retail investors, they bought a record $562 million of NVIDIA stock yesterday during the DeepSeek-led sell-off. What's your take on that? The fact that retail investors, at least, they're 100% buying the dip. I think that's one of the questions for everybody.
Yeah, I think for the market overall, buying the dip here makes sense as it relates to these particular sectors that are being a bit disrupted by the news out of DeepSeek and the changes in the competitive landscape there. It depends a bit on portfolio construction. Some people were very much under-owned in these areas, and yesterday's dip presents a pretty interesting buying opportunity to gain some exposure to these fantastic companies. But if you're overexposed, I think it's a good time to take a little profit and start broadening out again into some of the users of AI. We see some great opportunities. Yesterday's rotation was indicative of that. You had areas like healthcare and financials and consumers performing quite well. I think on the basis of the fact that they will now have access to cheaper AI to reduce costs in their businesses.